All right, so welcome to yet another episode of Roads and Travel by Ink That Matters, and this is Shireen Ishan. And about today's guest, she is Tirupura Sundari Sevale, and she's an architect, she's an educator, she's a social activist, she's also a storyteller of social causes. So she's done her architecture from India as well as the UK, and also she's done her urban planning from France, and she also owns her own architecture firm called the Studio Conclave. So a very warm welcome, Tirpu, to the show. I hope you don't mind me calling you that.
That's perfect. That's perfect. It's totally a pleasure to be here in this show because I've been following the Instagram page and very inspiring stories and very nice to hear different stories, right? Which makes us get on with our journey. So keep doing what you do, and I'd love to see you. So happy to be here.
Thank you so much, Tirpu. Thank you so much for having accepted our invite. And I know you've been very busy today too, and you just told me that you were in a workshop and still you took time off and you have given us the time. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you so much.
All right. So before we begin anything, I have noticed, all your posts on the social media. It's either about, Chennai or about the traditions of Chennai or the heritage of Chennai. It's anything and everything to do with Chennai. So about this, addiction to Chennai or this love for Chennai, how did that happen? If you can just tell us, because I wanted to ask you that personally, and I've just jotted that down in this place.
Okay. The thing is, it was not just about Chennai because there are certain aspects of Chennai which we generally feel like. For example, I live in an area called Amjikarai, and my village is called Kuam. Okay, a small village near Tiruvallur. And every time when we say Kuam or Amjikarai, there are these. See, these are just two examples from my personal thing. So there are these unknown facets of the city which we push into stereotypes. So all the posts which you see here are will be in either way trying to break that stereotype and push on that stories which actually needs to be heard. So recently, past 1 or 1.5 months, you would have seen a lot of posts about Chennai because we used to do a lot of heritage walks and workshops and all that. And I really miss doing that from March month. But all the people whom we used to meet in the heritage walks sent us these mails, books, postcards, and so many things. So past 2 months, it's too much about Chennai. But generally, we write about traditional techniques and storytelling, importance of stories, and all that. So past 2 months is just like we missed doing those heritage trails and workshops, and nothing is like doing something in person than online, right? So that's why, yeah. But also Chennai, if you ask me, I feel like the people of Chennai have always been, or Madras, I would like to call it, the warmth. Like anywhere you go, it will always be there. I'm talking about the local businesses, local professions who have always been the warming society. So I think my love for Chennai is all for them.
Right. Right. This was
Yes.
actually the first question that I wanted to ask you because the way I have, noticed your posts or, the social media on the Facebook or on the Instagram, you always project, portions of Chennai and what you like about Chennai, and, you promote the, the Chennai aspect as such, as brand as such. So I just wanted to know what the reason behind that. That's very lovely to know. All right.
Okay.
Being an architect, yeah. So being an architect to a person who wanted to give back to the society, how did that transition take place? You were an architect, you had a career in place. So from career perspective, being an architect to thinking one day did you just think about, no, I wanted to give back to the society that I live in, or take up a meaningful life than just having a career and doing good for my own people. I wanted to do something good for others too. So how did that transition take place?
I think it was two main reasons. One was like anyone would know, you finish your masters abroad or you finish your masters per se, you will have this crown of ego. I had my ego, which was up to like 30 feet of ego on my head. So I landed
Right.
up and I felt like city needs to be changed and all that. I think a lot of my students would know this or heard the story from me again and again. So we went to this place and we started documenting Amjikare. And there was this flower shop vendor called Mallika. Right now, she's only heading our heritage walks and all that. She simply told me, like, what, architecture student? I said, no. Then she said, urban designer. I said, what? How does she know? She's like, what, you'll come, you'll take pictures, you'll make this huge sheets, and then you'll take
Mm.
photos. What changed? I was like, we are doing, I still had my ego. I was like, we do that for you, we do this for the city. And then she showed me this at that particular time, 10 years, 11 years back, there was this wall painting in one part of Amjikare. And she said, when we went and leaned on the wall, they simply said, இவ்ளோ அழகா உங்களுக்கு வரைஞ்சு கொடுத்திருக்கோம். Why are you leaning on the wall? So she told me, like, isn't the purpose of the wall to lean on and not just put an art on? That broke my ego completely, and I was angry. Why are they thinking about us like that? But it took me some time to understand that doing groundwork or base work, you tend to understand what requirements. Of course, aesthetics is important. Of course, beautification, all that is important, but to understand the purpose of the place. So that was one thing. Second one is, when I wanted to build my own house for my parents, I think parents are the most difficult clients to deal with. So they wanted red oxide flooring. That was, I think, 8 years back, and I was not able to find one person who was doing it manually. All of them I contacted. Of course, I was okay with the price. So that I want to clarify. It was not that I wanted an economic floor. I was okay with paying what they asked, but all I asked was, "Are you doing manual flooring?" I couldn't find anybody who does manual flooring, and also someone who gives that curing time of 7 days and all that. I didn't find anybody. So these two instances made me feel that, okay, when I work on a city space, I need that sensitivity to connect with people. And then when I have to work with a traditional materials, I should make sure the livelihood of the artisans are good. I can't just keep complaining, right? So the recent series in our page also, Malarin Parvayil, is about Malar, a small child looking at the city and trying to understand why certain things are happening, why certain things are not happening. So I think Maligaka and meeting the artisans were like, that was one moment where I felt, okay, I have to do. I don't know if I still have uh, achieved that part of it, but I felt being sensitive in work is something I try to do. Try.
Right, right. So
Yes.
now, when you've told me about the red oxide flooring that you came up with. I've also been following your journey, where you have been one of the few architects who have been reviving this traditional aspect of bringing about red oxide flooring, or bringing about that tradition back into business. So how did that concept strike your mind, as to now we have got a lot of modern techniques, or modern architecture, if you can call it. Why did that you wanted to bring out the red oxide flooring technique back into business? Like, what made you do that, or what inspired you
Okay.
to do that?
A small clarification is, most of the time when they mention it as revival, but it was practiced by a lot of senior architects like Satyaprakash Varanasi sir has been doing it for a longer time. A lot of senior architects have been using. But where I wanted to intervene was very, very simple, because I tried to find few artisans who have gone out of their job important set of skill sets. But they, why was that? That was my question. Why certain amount of people have gone out of business? So we started collecting the artisans. So it's more like an artisan cooperative. So if someone asks me, oh, the red oxide is the most cheapest kind of flooring, no. It, like any other material which has gone through that cycle, it has its own value, but the money doesn't go to a factory or an industry. It goes towards the meals for a family, it goes towards the education of an artisan's family, it goes towards their livelihoods. So that's why. And then I would like to drive this comparison to organic food, organic clothing, fabric, and all that. All of this is looked at as something very expensive. Two reasons: because not many people do it, and when they do it also, you need to maintain that, right? But what we try to do is directly give the artisans that connection with the content. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. And also we learned in course of these 8 years, we have made mistakes. Like now, every third day we test water in our site, because we realize that if we are using some kind of at least some water with impurities, the floor completely is gone. So we have had bad experiences also, but we are learning from that to understand that not just the artisan is required, the water quality is important, the site quality is important. It's like food. how you work with food. So mine is based on not reviving red oxide chlorine. That has been happening for so many years. Reviving the livelihood of artisans and giving them back their dignity. And I think that was
Right.
one thing which I found important, and works of Satyaprakash Varanasi sir was very inspiring for me, and architect Laurie Baker sir, how they treated their artisans, how they treated their, they would never use the word workers, right? So those things. So this is an artisan collective or a cooperative where they can work with like crowd mood. Sometimes they will just tell me, "Amma, neenga solunga," they will accept for the price. If we tell, they will of course ask for a bargain. What they don't have and I have is just the language, but what we don't have and they have is the skill to do something which is very interesting. So I think, yeah, that was a long answer.
No, I actually wanted to know myself as to how this thing goes and why did you want to revive that concept as it. Now, when you tell me that it's going to be it's not an economical option and it's a costly deal. So, are there takers for this kind of an option? Are there still people who want to buy or who wanted to have this kind of traditional aspect in their structure? So are there takers still in
uh,
our society who would want to, appreciate that kind of a concept?
Okay, there are these two kinds of people I would like. Like first group, they really love using these traditional techniques. They want to embrace it. They want to use it in their house. They want to touch and feel it. The like one of my clients who's a very dear friend, she wanted it to. Even her site only, we had that few problems in the site, but she loved the floor. She wanted. So those are the clients we would love, who would understand the product, who would understand the artisans and work for it. So that is one part. The other part is. This is a trend now. This is a what is it? This is something. If we have this, it is mostly very fashionable. So they don't understand that. For example, they will just ask, "Can I? Can we just do one wall? Can we just do one piece of the?" Most of the time, what I try to tell them, see, of course, you can do that for aesthetics, but most of the time, if you use it as a comprehensive product, there is a climatic change, there is a it becomes a breathing wall, breathing floor, and all that. So aesthetics is, so we started adapting to that, because we did wall washes, we did pots, we did even ashtrays. Like one of my clients who was my professor in France, she wanted specifically ashtrays made of oxide boxes. And I was like, what? I had a pen stand. She said, cut it into half, it can be a nice ashtray. Okay. That was so products, like they want to have a piece of that tradition with us. But my suggestion is, if the building itself is using a lot of traditional materials and techniques, the quality of the temperature, quality of light, quality of acoustics, all that will be very nice. But thing is, more people start using it, it's like circular, right? More people start using it, the cost will come down. Eventually, a lot of artisans will come into practice. So I think that's the same with
Exactly.
any organic practice which has gone into that entire cycle.
That's a very good point actually. The more the people use it, the price will be very very competitive. That's a very good point.
Yes.
All right. So now what we would talk about is your, the social initiative, Nam Veedu, Nam Uru, and Nam Kadai. So what is it all about? The more I read about it, the more I'm actually inquisitive to know about it, to know what is happening, to know what you do. So can you just tell us about this, journey or this celebration that you have?
It's just a platform, or if you say, it's a collective where different people come together for a common social cause, and we express that through talks, walks, heritage trails, and projects and events, through arts, photography, and all that. So basically, to reach children and to have an inclusive platform, and also to make sure it is socially sensitive also. Like it shouldn't be like, okay, this should be inclusive, not like that. We think anything should be inclusive, it should not just be a tagline. So that is how it was started. So generally when I talk to children, they ask us what we just say, we build, we create, curate, we create, we read, we tell stories on social causes to make a better, inclusive, and socially equal world. So that's what we tell children whenever we use it. It's very different from my architectural firm and Kattal Kudam, which is our artisan collective. So Namreader is it's not a single person. So someone writes me as founder also. I feel I can't be the founder. Whoever even you read about it, you like the page, you are also a part. That's why it's if whoever reads it, it comes to them. Nam reader, nam pur, nam kade. So whoever reads it, it belongs to them. So it's a basic thing where different people. It's not focused in Madras. It's focused on different other stories. Basically, I feel different stories from different voices need to be put out. So that's how it started. And even a building which needs to talk for itself. Even a material, it could be a social cause, it could be anything. So just that. And sometimes it's important to pass the mic. So in those cases, we pass the mic.
Right. So now, when you tell me that you build stories around the social causes, and you bring about talking about that through stories or through debates or through talks. What are the kind of social causes that the your association has brought about as of today, or probably in the recent times, as to any one of the causes that you might have addressed, or you might have built a story around? Just we wanted to know that
One,
as an
two things
audience.
after the two things. One is Num Local, and one is Madras Inspire. Madras Inspire, it's the 8th year, but Num Local is something we thought about after the COVID situation. It just talks about the local professions and businesses and the way we look at them, right? For example, the Iron Kadana, even now they don't have a job because we are still scared of these touch surfaces, and also people who have this food kada and all that. So that particular one, we wanted to represent their life in terms of photographs. We wanted to represent them in terms of paintings and artwork and bring their stories forward. So we were able to help around 122 families, and a lot of our friends contributed to it. And the stories would be about how they managed to do that, but how with a little bit of it's not about money, because I don't believe in charity. Of course, charity is very, very important, 100% important. But to give them the livelihood, like give them a job, that I felt was more important. So
Right.
in that case, we were trying to connect the auto annas with a lot of people who were having quarantine weddings, and the tailor anna and iron anna for stitching the blouses and all that, and then small people to make that and the jada and all that marudani. So we were trying to bridge those gaps. So I don't know if that is a kind of a social cause which we took in. We take up these uh, time bound initiatives also, where we feel like we have to finish that and then hand it over to someone from the community itself. So this was one recent one which gave me so much of happiness. And on the other part, if you take Madras Inspired, is something we did for like 31 days of Madras Inspired, 2 more days to go, where one poet, one artist, one photographer, and three different artists wrote about one things about Madras. But it is not just the typical Madras which we know. One person sketched
Right.
every day about water problems in Madras. And then the
Right.
other one, she was writing even about Ennur. What were the environmental problems in Ennur? So I think a
Right.
city is about all the things. We should know that. So it's about creatively expressing as a story. So those are the two things which we recently did. And I got reminded of when you said.
But what you just told me about, the quarantine weddings where you connect to, the local, the business people, who have lost work during this, the quarantine season or because of this pandemic, you got them connected, and make sure that they got that work. That's very unique and a very creative way, and that's definitely, a social cause, and that's definitely a good thing that you have actually thought about. And that's what I liked about this whole thing that you have told me. That's the reason I wanted to know as to what is that the platform has been doing of late, because all these things don't come under any of the writings or anywhere. I've not read anywhere about all these things that are happening. Probably people will read henceforth on my portal probably when I write about you. So all these things I wanted to know as to what exactly happened. People know that this kind of an initiative is there called Nam Veedu, Nam Uru, and Nam Kadai, and this is what happens, but they don't know exactly as to what actually goes into it. So now I think people would be very clear about it as to what goes into it, and that's very very a creative thought. So you are an architect, so obviously it is justified that you come up with such ideas. All right.
I think all of
Uh,
us are creative. Yes. And I love your work too. Like, so you can't give the creative baton to someone else also. Your work is equally inspiring and very, very creative. Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right. So, when you had, made this shift from, being an architect, you were managing something else also, being associated for a social cause or, taking an initiative. It's not a, a plaything. You need to give an equal importance there also along with your career. You have not left your career as such. So, how was it to balance, both the aspects of life, and how helpful was your immediate family or your friends about
I think it came from my mother and my grandmother because easier everyone can say they were just homemakers, but I've seen them balance multiple things. They took care of the children, they took care of the husband, they took care of the house, they took care of the dogs, they took care of everything at the house. So I always used to wonder as a child, how do you do this multiple stuff? And I think anyone who says just a homemaker, I would never accept that. They have the maximum amount of work going on. So talking about this, I was a very average student in school. Teachers had a heavy amount of trouble with me every time that happened. But architecture was something I loved and I took. But I was just doing my work. I was just doing. But once I was in UK and then France, that kind of like when you go far, you really miss what you have here, right? So
it?
that kind of
Right.
gave me a realization of working on that, and my friends have been very very supportive. I should definitely say I've never spoken about them. Thanks for the question. Bhuvneshwari and Parkavi are my two close friends from college, and they are like anyway. You pick up at that one point, talk to them after 6 months. It's the same thing. They've always been that silent supporter. I know they will be there, and then now I have. Sivagami, Akshaya, Prasanna, Devika, all these people who have been seen my journey, Rafi, they've seen my journey from like few of them were my students, few of them are my college juniors, but they've seen my journey completely and they know where to. And I'm leaving my school friends aside for one reason because we met as kids, so even if we meet now, we are still kids. So I'm talking about other people who knew me on the later things. So they have been very supportive, and I think friends have become my extended family in Sodathavida. They are my family. And my father and mother, they've been very. I lost my grandmother, I think, 4 years back, and she was a huge support. I don't know. She kept repeating, even a few days before she passed away, she kept telling this one thing: women should be financially stable. Women should be. She didn't say educative anything. But that one thing she kept saying was financially stable. You should be financially stable, and I don't know, that is one advice she would give anybody, and that I heard also. And she always felt, do
Very
something which
true.
you're like if you really feel like in your end days, you will not feel that you have done this, you will never have that regret, but you'll have a big regret when you say you have not done this.
Right.
So might as well do it and think about it. So she was a huge inspiration. If you ask me whom I really, then my grandmother was a very very important reason.
That's so sweet. That's so sweet. Because, not many families would, be supportive of, such a thing where you already have a career in place and you wanted to do, take up a social initiative or take up a social cause. They'll say, why you wanted to get into all these,
True.
stuff when you have everything on hand? Why don't you just, have a smooth pace, smoothly going, life like as such? Why do you want to take risks or why do you want to get into all these things? There are other people who could, take care of all those things. But I think your family has been very, very understanding and very supportive of you, and that's actually a blessing.
Yes,
I would
definitely.
call
And
that.
also, they kept insisting on one thing: balance.
Right.
If there is a clock, if you divide it into four, family, profession, social work, and self care is like four important part. If you miss any one of it, your clock will be gone. So that is one thing I
Right.
probably learned from my grandfather. He used to talk about that four parts of a clock.
That's so nice. All right. So now let's talk about your association with Madras Literary Society. As to how did that happen in between these two? How did that fit in? And what have been your work? as far as Madras Literary Society is concerned.
Okay. To go back to the old story, I first went to Madras Literary Society because Lakshmi Priya ma'am was a faculty for vernacular architecture. She's been one inspiring person for whatever I do, and she gave an assignment about finding a map or something which is very old. I exactly don't remember, but I remember the story. So I was searching for the map, and then I mailed a lot of foreign universities, and one of the reply was, "You stay in Madras, right? So there is Madras Literary Society. Have you been there?" And I had like again, I always had this people who break my ego, who has been my huge supporters. So at that point, I was when I saw Madras Literary Society, that shelf with 65,000 books, and I was like, I thought I'm a member of all the libraries. My grandfather used to take me, but now I see a library which I've never even known about. So that was 2009.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that was 2009, and
I'd like to interrupt you. I'm
yes,
so
yes.
sorry because I came to know about Madras Literary Society only after I read about you. I was born and brought up in Chennai, and I never knew such a thing exists. After I read about you, I came to know, okay, my place has got this big a library which stocks so many books, and only then I thought, okay, I would ask you about it and know as to how it is. Please continue.
Definitely. So I went there, and that was a very beautiful event, which is for some other day. So the librarian was very welcoming on the 2009 nine that was. And then I came back home, and I told my grandmother there is this there a lot of books needs to be taken care of and all that. She said, just shut up. If you want to complain, don't go back to this place again. If you can contribute something to the place, go as someone who doesn't complain, but say you can do this, it'll be better. So it took me 4 years to go back there again, 2009, 10, 11, and 12. After finishing my bachelor's, master's, I took a specific course during my master's, not through the university, through volunteering in a very small museum in tours about restoration, conservation, and all that. So that after that, I came back. I trained myself with Dr. Jairaj for conservation of books, not architecture. A lot of people confuse me to be a conservation architect, but I'm a traditional material restorer. So there is a difference. So I learned it from Sir, and then after 4 years, I went back to Madras Literary Society to volunteer. So Mohan Raman sir was the secretary, and he was very supportive. Jaya ma'am was there, Padma Padmanabhan, and all of them really encouraged me to have a trial event. We had a small exhibition. We had a small for which Mr. S. Muttaya sir, the chronicler of Madras, came, and he wrote about that. And Sivagama Sundari actually, and all I met through that. So that happened, and during 2016, Mohan Raman sir asked if I would like to be the secretary of the place, and I freaked out. I said no. Then after a year, same time he messaged, and few other senior members also said. Then at that point, my grandmother was not there, so I didn't know whom to ask to check and all, or to like just to get an opinion. You need to ask someone, right? And my
Right,
friends didn't
right.
know much about. I mean, my college friends didn't know, so I was just like, okay, fine. So I asked my grandmother, and then she said,
Sirpu, you there? Your screen seems to be frozen. Are you still there? Are you able to hear me? Sirpu, are you there? All right, there seems to be some issue with the network or the connection, I guess. So we have just lost contact with our guest in the middle of the conversation. So I'm sure she will be joining us very soon, and we will continue our conversation and know more about her and the kind of work that she does for the society. So she should be here any moment. All right, we have her here.
Oh, got cut. I'm so sorry.
Okay, okay, that's okay.
Okay. I don't know where I got cut. If you can tell me, I can continue right from there.
Yeah, like you were, invited to become the Madras Literary Society's secretary for the second time, and you didn't know whom to ask because
Yes.
your grandmother was not there with you back then. So we got cut at that moment.
Okay. I think my life was also cut at that moment. So it was the right point. So it was like a crossroads where I had to make a decision because, like you said, it's a responsibility, right? Not a jolly thing. And so I was just thinking, what should I do? And then finally, I spoke to a couple of senior members and then they supported. And then, yeah, I became the secretary. It's been 3 years. And what I try to do is to just make sure that MLS is financially stable and also write about heritage buildings in a way that it is respected and dignity is given. Like for the past 31 days in March, we wrote one letter for the visitors from MLS, like MLS is writing a letter. So just to talk about lighting, ventilation, volunteers, staff, memberships, everything and all that. So MLS is a home to me, and it's a part of my life, an important part. And only in later days, someone told me that, oh, did you know you're the first women secretary of MLS? I had no idea, and then I didn't know where did they get the information from. But then again, a person who was interviewing me, she got all the list, and she said, yeah, I have a proof. This is the proof. Like, thank you. I didn't know. I knew it now.
Okay, that's
Yeah, and it's a
wonderful. That's
facet.
wonderful news, actually, that you have been the
Yes, so
first, the women secretary of such a, a heritage place like that in Chennai.
but
That must
the
have been a very
cham
proud moment.
Yes, I would like to mention Hemalata Ramamani Amma, who was the earlier chairman. She was the first women chairman to be there. So I think, and I think anyone would have seen Maunaraga movie. They would have seen the library there and all that. But I
Right,
feel there
right,
is more to, yeah, there is more to the library than that particular story. We can use that to woo people in, but you need something else to make them
right,
retain there and then come back. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for
right.
asking that question. Yes.
I was actually thinking, where did I see this, library from the pictures of, you had, posted a lot of pictures inside the library. I was thinking in which movie or where I couldn't collect, but I was very sure that I've not been to that library. But I was just thinking
Okay.
where, but thank you for, bringing that. It was from the movie Mauna Ragam. Now I got the connection as to
Yes.
where it was. So now
Yes.
that when you told me that you work specifically, as a material restorer and conservator, right? So what exactly is that? What exactly is material restorer and conservator? This is for the audience who would, not know what the technical terms are, as to know what goes beyond it. So if you can just
Okay.
tell us as to what
Okay.
means, yeah.
Probably I'll show it to you with an example. This is
Yeah.
a German compass, and this is more than 70-year old. There is a metal clamp, there is a leather pouch, and then there is something in metal inside. So this is the most complicated stuff you can find at home, or you can find a small idol, you can find an old diary, a grandfather's diary, you can find a list of letters, old ID cards, so many things at home. And they all have a particular lifetime. But to prolong that lifetime, you need to restore, conserve it, and restore it. So material conservation is a similar profession. You can be and you can get trained yourself in archival paper. You can be a leather restorer. You can be a metal restorer. I specifically work on archival material, which is like paper, basically paper. Even though I've done a course in fabric and leather, I've not practiced it earlier. I've seen my mentors using it, but I focus on objects, wood, metal, which is useful for my architectural profession as well.
Right,
Wood,
right.
metal, and papers. But papers always have that fascination for me. So those are the three things I do. So this is not an upcoming profession. It has been there for a longer time, but there is a lot of need for certified or professionals in conservation, material conservation. So a lot of them who are watching, who wants to get into this, you can finish your basic science degree and get into museum management or material. It is an important field which will have a lot of, because this is like you have the IT boom now. It is a heritage and history boom. Lot of people are getting into the field, so you need really experts and professionals to talk about important stuff. So this is an upcoming a field which will have a lot of importance in the coming years.
All right. When you say you specialize in, specialize in paper restoration, what exactly do you mean by that? Paper restoration, in the sense the books or the journals, or what exactly do you mean by paper
It
restoration?
it could be anything. For example, the first work I apprenticing with my sir, I worked on was a Quran which was 125 years. I had no idea what it was. I know there was a writing and all that, but everything was stuck. But I remember sir was very careful with that. He said my work was to just take the paper. It was soaked in chemicals, so I had to open it out. But you know what was the most? I did it like a task. I should accept, like when you are getting trained in something. But the person who came to take it back, the way he looked at that when it was done, he literally had his hands folded in front of sir, and he was like, "Thanks for doing this. This is such a precious one." That made me realize that okay, this is you can do that. Like lot of people have these precious.
Right.
Like also
Right.
there was this person who was 83-year-old who gave our set of love letters for restoration, and we restored it, and she paid the money, and she said keep it with yourself. And I was like, then why did you pay? She said you will have the letters better, and you will tell our stories better. Have it in your moving museum. So on coming back to the point, we have a small moving museum with different heritage objects. So we have a lot of these wonderful stories of people also coming to us.
Right. That's lovely.
Yeah,
That's lovely. Actually, all these things I wanted to know personally as to what happens, because, like these are some things which are not, very commonly that people will know now, like movies or music, which is, very common. People have a lot of knowledge about that. But these things, only when that's people from that specific field, come and talk about it, we wouldn't know anything about that. So I wanted the audience to
definitely,
know about what all this is all about. So that's the reason I had asked you. All right.
definitely.
So, so how has the response, been for all these things, your journey as such, the for you to revive the, when you talk about red oxide flooring, or when you talk about your, the social cause initiative or platform that you've created, or you being the secretary for the Madras Literary Society, how has the response, been from the family, or from the general people as such, or whoever is coming to your workshops, and what kind of workshops do you conduct? So if you can just throw some light on that.
Okay, I'll just come back to start with the last question because that's an easier one. We have four types of workshop. One is basically architecture, red oxide, lime plaster, and how to work with traditional materials and all that. Second one is household heritage and personal history workshop, which we do for children and seniors also. And the third type of workshops are our inclusive workshops where we work with sign language, braille, and how do we make accessible tours, city tours and all third part. And the fourth part is we do workshops on reading, just reading books. How do you read books? How do you read poetry to understand better? So these are the four kind of workshops we do.
Any
Coming
kind
back
of
to the things
qualification or understanding capability that you require for all these workshops, or
not
anybody
at
can
all.
attend?
All anybody can attend. So we have free workshops. We have paid workshops also. For in places if they can afford to pay us, we do paid workshops. If they are in requirement of, we have done it in street sides. We have done it in actually Madras like a road along the Kada Solum. We have done it in the streets. We've done it in Mottamadi, parks, and different places, and we have done it in proper venues, auditoriums, and all the like proper na improper na artham kadiyadu. The typical mindset of the people which
I
says
understand.
proper.
I
So all
understand.
that. So I wanted to answer this easy part first. Okay, now coming back to your tough questions, how do people react? See, I've had extremes of reactions. Okay, so I think the first one would be like ரொம்ப யோசிச்சு வந்து கேட்பாங்க நீங்க என்னதான் பண்றீங்க எங்களுக்கு புரியவே மாட்டேங்குது நீங்க எங்களுக்கு கொஞ்சம் சொல்றீங்களா, நீங்க என்ன பண்றீங்க, உங்களை நான் அங்க பாத்திருக்கேன், இங்க பாத்திருக்கேன், இந்த இடத்துல பாத்திருக்கேன், நீங்க what is that? And then this feels very genuine because they directly asked me on the face, like to
Right.
me.
That's very nice.
This I am perfectly okay, I have 100%. And then the
Right.
second set of people, they immediately will ask, you should concentrate on your work, you're not doing
Right.
architectural work, you're not doing. I'm like, have you, do you know my portfolio in architectural work, have you seen that? And then they will like, oh, I know that, okay, at last you are concentrating in architecture, at last you're doing that. And then they feel only when something comes in a newspaper or an article, they feel that
Only
something
then
is
you're
happening.
doing
But there are,
something.
yeah, but there are these wonderful people who have done phenomenal work around the world. We don't even know their name.
Right.
We don't even
Right.
know their name. So since, because my other side of the work is getting published a lot and you can see it in the newspapers or media and all that, they feel, okay, this is not that. But that I've never left my, I think architecture is like my anchor. And what that has always given me, see, whatever the vision of life I have or about the world and all that, it was through architecture, like vernacular architecture subject by Lakshmi Priya ma'am, or Satya sir's contemporary architecture, and Kamala sir's urban design. All these, I mean, I'm recollecting all those memories. All those made me look at things differently in different lights. So all those were there. And then this was one common thing. But there is this third set of people who will directly speak behind, whom I don't care much about. They will be like, she's very blunt, she's very rude, and I don't know, she's very confused person and all that. And then I feel in India there is a taboo that if you do multiple things, you are confused. And if you have two or more if you have two or more interest, you are confused. If you have two or more businesses, you are confused. And then they say focus. Yes, of course you can focus. Focus is the most important thing. That's what I tell my students and people who attend our workshop. Of course, you can do multiple things, but when you do that one thing, you should concentrate on that 100%. You should do 100% concentration on that. You can have multiple, it's completely normal, but there is a taboo where they say, oh, you should have only one interest, you should have only one profession, you should have only one business. Not at all. Every other change maker in the world, if you see, they will have multiple interests, they'll have multiple businesses, multiple professions. But here, where that is equated to, they equate, or the other part, they say you don't you don't want to start 100% officer, you don't want to start a big official complex, you don't want to do that. I think success is very, very personal. For everyone, it is very personal. If you feel, for me, success is having an office which does productive and sensitive work, not having an office which is 150 people, running with 150 people. That's not, I mean, that's not success. I mean, that is success to them. For me, success is this doing something work. So I'm not, generally, we don't judge others, right? People who, I think you would completely agree with my point, because whenever even the profession is little off skewed from the regular profession, which people think, they will be there. And all these are the mixed kind of responses you have, but the best response I have are from kids, 5-year-old and 3-year-old kid. They're like, auntie, I saw you singing and telling story in that museum, that was very nice. Then you were also building my house, and then now you're also talking about these scientists and all that. So this is very nice, auntie. So when a 5-year-old tells me that, I think they understand us better.
Right.
Yes.
That's
So yeah.
actually why I asked you this question. Is I have also personally, gone through all these things. I think every other, woman or every other person goes through all these things. They mix it kind of, reactions from the society or people, the kind of people that you have explained it very beautifully. So that was actually a very personal question that I wanted to know as to how you would take up, the responses, or how you take up, people telling you what to do and what not to do, and why you're doing this, why you're not doing that, and all those things. So that was actually beautifully put across.
Thank you.
All right. So now, when
Thank you
you
so
tell
much.
me that when you do, the storytelling sessions through, music, or through through stories to children, how far does it reach them? Like, because children are basically, they get deviated very quickly. They don't concentrate, or how do you think, something like a social cause or something, about the society as such, how is that you can instill in children as such? How do you think how far
Okay.
it will be effective?
Okay, rather than telling just children, regarding humans, there is this thing. If you want to listen to something, you will listen. If
Right.
you want to have an attention, you will. So in that case, to get that initial attention from the audience is very, very important. That may be children or anything. For that, music helps. For that, a little bit of an theater performance helps. A little bit of singing helps. A little bit of I have dressed like a bird. I have dressed like what a bird and aeroplane. I have once dressed like a cloud. So I've done all that crazy stuff for them to see. So that initial attention. So once they have your attention, then you have them. But to keep them engaged for that, but for me, any performance or any talk or anything more than 30 minutes, you will not have the attention of the other person until you have a break or until you have that some kind of element to keep them glued to what you're saying or what you're performing and all that. So I think with kids, I always feel that initial attention, if you get from them, then they are the most wonderful. And then they are very participatory. They will never feel shy to come and dance with you, come and sing
Right.
with you, and then put
Exactly.
their hands up, and then they'll do this. And then when
Yeah.
you miss a word, and then they'll be like, consciously, for example, when I repeat the third sentence, I'm like, what was that third sentence? And then if I keep my face little low, they'll be like, oh, this is the sentence. So I think there are
Okay.
these visual cues which you can bring. And I think about menstrual health and all that, kids understand it very well. They really, you have to like put it in them, and then they will beautifully respond to it. But you should be careful with the word, careful with sensitivity. Understand your audience. What is their age group? What is their background? What is their school background? I mean, have are they like, we have once done thing with destitute children. So when you talk with destitute children, they have a different kind of trauma experience which they have. So you have to keep that in mind. But again, any story, fun story, you can story is the best form of thing. I think that also came with architecture. Any emotion you can put it in architecture. Like any emotion you can put it in a story. So I think storytelling and architecture to me are like uh, seems very equal. The narrative is physical here, the narrative is verbal here. So not much of a difference.
I've been completely fascinated now, and I would, request you to call me for a story session next time. I would love to be a
Definitely.
part of it. I would want to,
Definitely.
watch you live performing so that I would also get that kind of an experience. So I'm
Definitely,
telling this
definitely,
to you
yes.
on live, so you better call me.
Absolutely,
So
yes,
you better.
absolutely.
All
Definitely,
right. So
yes.
I, while doing a research about you, I have also heard that or have read about that you have also authored, books. So what kind of
Hmm.
books is that you have authored? Like you two books you have authored, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, yes, right. Two books. One is a, self-published book about the history of Ananagar, Naduvakarai to Ananagar, tracing the like that we made. Like it was more like a gratitude. So I interviewed around 650 people in Ananagar to put together the history of Ananagar. So we had a very low key ceremony. I just gave one copy to my dad. That's all. The function is done. And then we gave different copies to the participants, and then we gave one copy to Muttaya sir. I gave one to Madras Literary Society. So that was about history part. But the published one through Pratham was Maller's Big House. So Maller has always been in my head. The most curious and the most notorious hyperactive child you complain about is Maller. So Maller, I feel, is all of us who we try to control that Maller effect inside us, but all of
Right.
us have Muller inside us. So Muller is that it's a very simple, neat book written. I mean, illustrated by Ankita Kini, and Karishma was coordinating it, and Kaveri was the art coordinator. Pratham was the publisher. So it's a very small 13, 14 page book where a child tries to build something, and it's available online, Muller's Big House, in more than 14 languages. So it's a simple book, and Muller's experiences will continue. How Muller sees different things and how other people see Muller. So
Nice.
that's what it is about. Yeah. And then three more books
So
are coming up in a couple of months,
okay.
hopefully, if not for the COVID situation.
So, if I may ask, what are the books about? Like, if you can just give a one-liner as to what to expect out of the books that you would,
Okay.
publish.
One book is about column. The different, not the how to do a column. There are amazing experts who can teach us how to do columns or how to work on columns. And also, this is not a book about putting columns or how to do columns. No, this is about different stories of people who have been touched by column and what we can learn from that. So that's a very nice book. So I'll be able to give more details once it is published. That's one. And then there is another book which is that I have a lot of pending work to do, research work also for column that's happening. The next one will be something related to Madras. So I'll keep the title surprise. Something related to Madras, and the
I'm not
other one is a
surprised
children.
at all.
Okay, the other one is something for children. Yeah, it'll be a continuation of Muller's journey. So a children book. Yeah, hopefully yes, because
All right.
these three things
Tripura,
have
I
been.
want, yeah,
Yes. So
yeah,
these
please
three things
continue.
have been pending for a long time. I should sit and write it down. Write on the pending
Okay.
parts.
So, in middle of your busy schedule, you have 3 books to complete and publish also. So that must be a very tedious task because I know writing is not easy. So
Absolutely.
that's my
Yes. Yes.
writing is not at all easy. As people think, you just sit
Definitely.
in one place with a pen and a book. Lot of stuff goes inside when you have to write something. So I know that
Absolutely.
personally. So I'm telling you that.
Yes.
All right.
True. Totally.
So, Tirpu, when write books about children, when this is a very personal question. When you have, stories, you conduct stories for children, storytelling sessions through music, or you write books for children. How's that, the attachment to children as such? Because even today, if I want to author a book, probably it would not be about children because I cannot actually make them sit quietly in one place or make them listen to me, something like that. I'm actually quite fascinated with that fact as to how is that you thought about writing book for children, or how is that you conduct sessions for children. So if you could just
Okay.
share some tips as to how it is done.
Yes, I think the age difference between me and my sister is 12 years. So
Okay.
when I was in 12th standard, when I was in 12th standard, she joined LKG. So that's our age gap. So while seeing her grow up, it was really fascinating for me, and I always found these small stories to tell her to keep her engaged. I could never see her cry or getting upset because for anything. So these stories help me do that. So she was kind of an inspiration for me to write for children and work with children. And also there is when I was in fourth year with a friend for
Shit,
her
switched off.
birthday.
It was about to end. Just
Oh,
10.
switch. Hello.
All right, there. Okay, so there has been a small, network issue because of which I was cut off from the broadcast. I'm really very sorry about that. So we will join our guest very shortly now. So this was from my side. I had some network issues and I got cut. So we will be joined by our guest very shortly. All right, so we will be joined by our guest Tirupura Sundari very shortly. So this has been a network issue from my end this time, because of which I got cut from the broadcast. So that's absolutely.
Yes, now I can see you, hear you.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I got cut from the broadcast.
Not at all, not
My
at all. Totally
network
understand. See,
got cut quickly. I had to actually rejoin. I'm so sorry about that.
no, no, no problem, no problem. Yes, yes.
So we were talking about your other books which are out to be published. And
Your
you
voice
are
is
you were
breaking.
telling me about being with children.
Okay, being with children. Okay, then I got to go to this place called Sri Arunodayam. I think that was 2011 or something. I went there again in 2013. I met a baby called Angel, and she was a huge inspiration for me to work with children. And yeah, so she's been a huge inspiration. Angel from Sri Arunodayam has been a huge inspiration. I can hear a lot of this sounds.
That's
Okay, yes, yes, yeah.
that's
I think your
very
video is cut.
nice.
Yes,
So your sister has
I'm I'm not able to hear you. It's breaking.
also contributed to.
I'm not able to hear you.
Social
I can your
activities that
video
you are doing.
your video is buffering, but and I'm not able to hear you.
So
Probably
that brings us to
you can probably
conversation right now. So I want to tell. You're able to see me? Am I visible? Are you here? Dirko, are you able to hear me? I'm sorry again. I'm sorry, really very sorry. Because it's not in my control. It is the network that is going haywire today. It's usually not like this. Are you able to hear me, Tirpu? Am I audible to you? Because I am not able to hear you at all. How do we do now? This code didn't work earlier also. Are you guys able to see me? Am I visible? Am I audible? If I could get some response.